Hello everyone, it's me Wulan speaking here as your English literature teacher. In this occasion, let me share with you about the material of asking for and giving advice or suggestions or recommendations. Let's jump right in. Alright, in this presentation, you will learn about 4 things. The first one is you will learn about how to arrange some random sentences into a dialogue. The second one is you will learn about how to find the topic in the dialogue contained asking for and giving suggestions or recommendations. The third one, you will learn about how to find detailed information from the dialogue. It means you will learn about reading for detail. While the last one is you will learn about reading for the gist. However, to go on the first point, you need to understand or you need to comprehend first about the text structure. Let's begin with the text structure first. Actually, I already shared about the text structure with you last week. Do you remember that? Well, let me review this material for you. Now, on your screen, you can see the text structure review. Over here, I already provide you a dialogue, and within the dialogue, there are asking for and giving advice or suggestions expressions. Alright, now for this time, I really want you to read this dialogue for a moment. I will give you 15 seconds to read. Alright, after 15 seconds, now let's go on to the colorful part over here. Alright, in here, to open this dialogue, Mindy said, "Do you mind if I ask you for some advice?" Actually, you can do the same thing by using another expressions. For example, "Hi Tony, do you have time to talk?" Or, "Hi Tony, may I disturb you for a while? I need your advice." Those expressions are also included into the opening for asking for advice and giving advice dialogue. After Mindy opened the dialogue, of course Tony will respond, like, "Of course not. Please go ahead." And after that, Mindy will go on with the problem. "I'm thinking about buying a new car." And after that, Mindy continues with asking for advice or suggestions, like, "What kind of car should I buy?" And then, before Tony continues with giving advice or suggestions, he continues with asking Mindy with something else that will guide Mindy to find the solution. Good question, Mindy. What is your price range?" Mindy said, "I don't know. Something reasonable and nothing too crazy." And Tony said, "Why do you want a new car. And then Mindy said, my car is very old and it often breaks down. And in here, actually, Mindy expressed her problem again. And then, after that, Tony said, I say, then how often do you drive? I drive to work every day and I go shopping at the mall on the weekend. Tony said, is that all? Do you go anywhere else? And then Mindy said, I go to the gym 3 times a week. Tony, I think you should buy a small compact car. In here, as you can see, Tony said, I think you should. Should here is the keyword of giving advice or suggestions. After Tony asked Mindy for several times to find a solution, and finally Tony comes with the advice itself by saying you should buy a small compact car. And then, but in here, Mindy hasn't found a good exact solution. So Mindy asked Tony once again, what kind should I buy? What kind of car should I buy? I mean, which small compact car? And then Tony comes with another solution. In here, Tony said, have you seen the new carbon models? Have you seen the new carbon models? In this context, it refers to giving advice or suggestions expressions. Well, maybe some of you ask or some of you are curious about why this question is included into giving advice or suggestions, while the form is interrogative. Well, yes. By using interrogative sentence, actually you are still able to give advice or suggestions to someone else. Like this example. Have you seen the new carbon models? Yes, this is a giving advice. So, the note for this one is giving advice or suggestions is not only about the statement, but it is also about the interrogative sentence. Alright, let's go on. And then Mindy said, no, I've never heard of them. And then Tony said, they're very reasonable and reliable. Why don't you test drive one? Why don't you test drive one? Okay, why don't you test drive one is also included into giving advice or suggestions. Well, the case of the structure, the case of the sentence structure is exactly the same as the previous one when the Tony said, have you seen the new carbon models? Okay, and then to respond to the Tony's positive advice, Mindy said, great, I will. Thanks for your advice, Tony. Okay, by responding Tony by saying, thanks for your advice, Tony, or great, I will, it means Mindy gives the positive response to the Tony. Now, let's go on. Okay, after you comprehend the text structure on the previous slide, namely, you have to highlight the problem before you ask the question. Before you ask for advice, you need to understand the problem. Of course, the first one is you can begin with the ask for advice or opening beforehand, and then after that you go on to the problem, and then after that there's giving advice expression, and after that you respond to it. Okay, now let's try into another dialogue, but this dialogue is not in a good structure. Let's take a look at it. Okay, here is the dialogue. Put these sentences into dialogue, okay? Please read this one in 10 seconds. Then after that, I will discuss it together with you, how to find the answer. Alright, if you find this kind of question in your exam, it means you have to put some sentences into a good dialogue. Something that you must do in the beginning is, okay, from these sentences, please find the opening. Is there an opening here? And then the second one, is there an asking for advice expression? And the third one, is there a telling a problem? And the fourth one, is there giving advice or suggestions expression? And the fifth one, is there responding to advice? Alright, now let's identify some of them. Okay, number 1 is included into asking for advice or suggestion. It means, can you put this in the beginning of the dialogue? Yes, maybe. Just put it, just keep it for a while, and then you have to separate this into the first part. Number 2. Number 2 is included into the problem. So of course, you need to put the problem after asking for advice. And then giving advice or suggestion. Giving advice expressions this is very impossible to put this sentence in the beginning of the dialogue, because this is about giving, and giving will be put after asking for advice or suggestion. And the next one is about responding to advice or suggestion. Respond, it means you have to put this after giving. And then there's a problem again. And then maybe some of you think, so where should we put the second problem? Well, in here there's a first problem in here, and then there's a second problem over here. And next, well, to find this, of course, you need to arrange them and then put them into a coherent dialogue. And the next one is number 8, giving advice again, and etc. Okay, now over here, let's see the correct answer. As the previous one said, do you still remember that, can you give me some advice? This is asking for suggestions. And of course, after asking for suggestions, your partner will answer, sure, what's up? And then you go again. This is the problem, telling a problem. My boyfriend always tries to surprise me by doing romantic things, and I want to do the same for him. I just cannot think of anything. Do you think I should buy him flowers or something? And then response again. But in here, the response is referring to the giving suggestions. Probably not. If I were you, shows us about the giving suggestion. If I were you, I would think about something he likes and do something connected with that. What is he interested in? Well, he loves baseball. Okay, great. Why don't you get tickets to watch his favorite team play? You can go together. This is about another solution, actually. That's a nice idea, actually. I'm not sure what his favorite team is, though. Okay, in here, the first speaker comes with the problem again. So, this is what I mean by if you find two problems in the dialogue, you have to consider the coherence of the dialogue. Is it possible to be a good dialogue if you put the first problem into the first arrangement, or even in contrast, if you really want to put the second problem into the first arrangement? Well, the consideration is all up to you. But the main thing is the coherence itself. And then until here, you can find, I recommend that you check their schedule on the website. This is also about another recommendation. And by the end, that's a great idea. Thanks, John. This is how to respond to giving advice or suggestion. Okay. The last one is about responding, giving suggestion. Okay. The next one is, okay, so how to answer when we have to, how to answer the arrangement of the dialogue if you are faced by the wrong structure of the dialogue. Something that you have to keep in your mind is, generally there are 5 general structure that usually happens in the asking for and giving suggestions dialogue. The first one is about the opening, or asking for advice or suggestions or recommendations, or even describing a situation such as well, hi, why do you look so sad? That is included into this describing a situation. So maybe you can consider these 3 points as you will put in the beginning of your dialogue. After that, you can continue with the problem. And after the problem, you can consider asking for advice or suggestions or recommendations. And of course, after asking for, you need to come to giving advice or suggestions or recommendations. And by the end, you have to responding to the advice. Here, you have to responding to giving advice or suggestions or recommendation. Well, how about a case is like what happened on the previous slide? When you have more than one problem, you have more than one asking for advice or suggestion expressions, and then you have more than one giving advice expressions. How about that? Well, this is why I give a line in here, an arrow. So basically, the circle will be about here. Okay, so problem again, asking for again, and then giving again, and then go back again to the problem, and go back again to the asking for, giving, and then finally you have to close it by saying responding to giving suggestion. Or even the 4th steps will be repeated over and over again. Alright, that's about how to find a good arrangement for a dialogue consisting asking for and giving suggestions. And the next one is, well, here you go again. You can see the same dialogue from the previous one. And in this slide, your task is you have to find what is the topic of the dialogue. Alright, maybe you already read this, so I just skip this for the next one. Okay. Regarding the topic, if you hear the topic, actually, what is that about? Okay. According to Cambridge Learner's Dictionary, topic means a subject that you talk or write about. So, subject here means something that you have to deal with, the problem. Topic means you have to deal with the problem. That's why, how to find it? Of course, like what I told you, you need to find the main problem of the dialogue. The main problem of the dialogue. Why I stress the main problem here? Because in case in that dialogue there are more than one problems, it means you have to select one of them, or you have to decide one of them as the main problem of the dialogue. Okay, not the secondary one. Okay, and then after you find the main problem, and then you have to combine that main problem with the more general topic of the dialogue. What does it mean by the more general topic of the dialogue? Well, the more general topic of the dialogue here refers to something that we are learning about. Okay, in this occasion, we are learning about asking for and giving suggestions or advice or recommendations, expressions. So of course, by the end you have to put that in your answer. Okay, if you hasn't got any idea yet about what I'm talking about, now let's try it. Wait. Okay, let's try it. In here, the topic of the dialogue. Which one is the main problem? You can see two problems here. The first problem is, I'm thinking about buying a new car. Well, the second problem is, my car is very old and it often breaks down. Okay, which one is the main problem? Excellent, you're right. The main problem is, I'm thinking about buying a new car. So, if the question is, what is the topic of this dialogue? So, you have to answer, the topic of this dialogue is about asking for advice or suggestion about buying a new car. Okay? Why it is so sudden? There's asking for advice or suggestions as part of the answer. Well, yeah, asking for advice or suggestion here is regarded as the more general topic of the dialogue. So that's why the topic of the dialogue is about asking for advice or suggestions about buying a new car. This is the topic of the dialogue. Okay? Now, let's go on. Okay. After you comprehend about how to find the topic of the dialogue, now I'll go on to the third part of this presentation. Namely, you have to find the detail of the dialogue. How to find the detail? Namely, you have to find the same or similar words. What should we what should we are good at? Well, of course, you should be good at vocabularies. Why? Because, okay, let's see the example first. Referring to the previous dialogue, what kind of car that was recommended by Tom? What kind of car that was recommended by Tom? So you have to find the word recommended and related to Tom. But because the question is recommended by Tom, it means you have to find the answer from the Tom. Let's see. Okay. The answer of the, I mean not Tom, but Tony. Okay. In here, there's what kind of car should I buy? Okay. Should I buy here is the same as recommend. While the question is using recommend, I mean the word recommend, in the text, you will find should instead of recommend. Okay? So you can find here, what kind of car should I buy? And also here, what kind should I buy? What kind of car should I buy actually? And then you have to find Tony's answer, namely the carbo models. The carbo models. Okay? After you find the similar meaning of should and recommend. Okay, now let's go back. And then in here you have to find the relevant context inside the dialogue. For example, what is the price range of the car that Mindy wants to buy? Okay, in the text, Mindy doesn't say anything about the price, whether is it $1 million? Is it $100? We never know. But the thing is, Mindy said about something reasonable and not too crazy. Okay, what does it mean by reasonable and not too crazy? Let's go back. Here, something reasonable and nothing too crazy. What is the price range? Find the same word, price range, and then the answer, reasonable and nothing too crazy. Oh, oops, sorry. Okay, over here, reasonable and nothing too crazy is the same as cheap. It's the same as affordable by Mindy. Okay, so it's not something expensive. And then how do you know that reasonable or and nothing too crazy is related to something which is not expensive? Of course, that is from your knowledge about the vocabulary, and this is related to the closest meaning. Oops, sorry. Okay, and then that is related to the closest meaning or the synonym, yeah, something like that. And then the next one is we come to the last part of my presentation, namely reading for the gist. What does it mean by the gist? Gist refers to your comprehension about the text. Refers to your understanding. Do you understand the content? Do you understand the content of the dialogue? Well, to matter your comprehension, there are some points that you have to predetermine, namely who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who are the speakers in that dialogue? Mindy and Tony. Who are Mindy and Tony? They might be friends. They might be co-workers. Yes. And then the topic we already discussed about this, and then about when. When is the most when is the dialogue mostly like happened? Well, it is mostly like happened before Mindy bought a car, of course, or during the break time, if they are friends, or if they are co-workers, something like that. So you need to predict the context of when from the dialogue, because there is no explicit information related to when or related to time of the dialogue. And then where, it can be in the office, it can be in the canteen, okay? And then why that dialogue must be happened? Because Mindy needs an advice from her friend, namely Tony. And then how to buy that car, and then maybe you can read that one again, okay? In here we already tried to answer the questions, so I will go on. Okay, so for the conclusion, to be able to arrange some random sentences into a good dialogue, you have to be good at text structure. Like, you have to be good at identifying the problem, you have to be good at identifying the asking for and giving advice or suggestions, expressions, describing situations, and also responding to giving advice. And then you have to be able to put them in the right order. Of course, it is impossible for you to put giving advice in the very beginning of the text. At least you have to put describing a situation first, and then asking for suggestions, and then problem, and then giving advice, and then by the end, responding to the giving advice expression. All right. The next one is you have to be able to find the topic of the dialogue. How to find the topic? It means you have to find the problem, the main problem, and then relate that with the general topic, the more general topic. The third one is to be able to find the detailed information from the dialogue. You have to be good at synonym and the closest meaning. It means you have to develop your vocabulary. And the last point is to be able to read for the gist, or to comprehend the dialogue. You have to predetermine the context by finding who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay? So that's the end of my presentation. Hopefully you get the points of this presentation, and see you again later. Happy learning. Bye.